Hey everyone, and welcome to Autism Awakening, the podcast that helps you help your child with autism. My name's Dr. Jared Skowron, and I've been an autism biomedical doctor for over 20 years, helping children on the autism spectrum recover, helping them have more language, better behaviors, better sleep, more cognition and awareness, and really doing everything possible to make their lives and your lives as good as possible. So, here at Spectrum Awakening, of course, we focus and specialize on non-pharmaceutical interventions because, frankly, we find those the most effective ways to help your child. Everything that we do is based in science, and of course, on our podcast, which we have every week, we have scientific research studies to share with you so you know there's real hardcore research going on around the world and has been for decades on ways to help your child. Now, if you're new to Spectrum Awakening, you can always take part in a live recording of our podcast, which we record on our Facebook page. Our Facebook page is Spectrum Awakening, and we record every Thursday at 12:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I take my lunch break and chat with you guys, and anybody who's on live, we can ask live questions and talk about what's going on with your kids and how we can help. All right, so a couple agenda items for the regulars. Our brand new multivitamin is coming out. I'm hoping to get it by October, but we still need a name. We need a good name for this. So we're having a name game, if you will. What we do for a lot of our products is we survey you guys. We survey the families because you guys have a lot better ideas than I do. So we're looking for a really good name for the best autism multivitamin on the market. So if you think you got a good name, put it in the comments section or send us a message, a private message, direct message, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or wherever, or our email from our website. Any way you can get a hold of us and shoot us an idea for the name, because whoever is the winner, whoever has the name submitted that we pick, they're going to get the first free bottle right off the shelf. Pretty cool stuff. So if you got an idea for a name, a catchy name for an autism multivitamin, send it over to us. We're still trying to look for one. All right, so let's get into it. I was away last week. Live shout out to Colleen. Hey, Colleen. I was away last week. Took a week to kind of decompress and work on my autism book before my daughter headed off to school. Today was her first day of school, so she's going into 6th grade. And thanks, Sherry. Sherry asked if my right eye was okay. Well noticed. Yes, unfortunately, when I was away, I ran into a tree, and so my eye bled a little bit, and it always looks worse than it feels. So if you ever see somebody that has a little blood on the white of their eye, you don't even feel it. So, but thank you for your concern. I appreciate it. No, I just unfortunately banged into something, and hey, life happens. So, but I'm good. I appreciate your concern. All right, so let's get into our conversation today. And our conversation today is, why are there more boys than girls with autism? Okay, and this is pretty well known. You know, we know that there's way more boys than girls with autism, but why? And what does that mean? You know, what can we then take from that information and utilize it? I mean, it's a nice little factoid, like you're on Jeopardy. You're like, who has more autism, boys or girls? It's boys. Okay, great. But what does that information mean, and how can we utilize it to help our kids? So that's what we're going to get into today. And I think it's pretty interesting conversation, not just for our kids with autism, but for all of us, okay? Because I think it's a deeper seated issue than just, hey, here's our kids and there's more boys. Okay, so I want to start out, before we get into our science, let's start out with, why could there be a difference? What's the difference between a boy and a girl? All right, pretty basic question. It's hormones, right? So let's talk generally about hormones. When we're talking about hormones, we're going to specifically talk about the sex hormones. So we're not talking about hormones like the thyroid hormone or cortisol, our stress hormone, or even vitamin D. Vitamin D technically is a hormone. It's a steroid. So we're not going to be talking about those things, but we're going to be talking about sex hormones. So let's talk about the main 3 sex hormones. There are many, many, many sex hormones. We're just going to be talking about the main 3. And I call them sex hormones because they're different in the different sexes. So, boys have different hormones than girls. Different amounts. Okay, boys and girls have different amounts of these hormones, where other hormones like thyroid, we all have pretty much the same amount. So the 3 major sex hormones we're going to be talking about are testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone. Okay, so those are the three major sex hormones that we'll be discussing. Now, I'm pretty sure most of you are familiar. Testosterone is primarily the male hormone, okay? Males have much more testosterone than females. Females still have testosterone, okay? But males have a lot more. Got it, okay. And let's flip to the other side. Girls have much more estrogen and progesterone. Okay, girls have a lot of estrogen and progesterone compared to boys who still have estrogen and progesterone, but at smaller amounts. So there's the dichotomy on the continuum. Boys have more testosterone and less estrogen than girls, and girls have more estrogen, progesterone, and less testosterone than boys. Got it? Okay, basic anatomy or basic physiology. All right, now, when autism started to really increase, kind of starting in the 1980s, scientists made an assumption. They saw more boys than girls and said, well, more boys must be a testosterone problem because boys have more testosterone and boys are the ones with this issue. So that must be the case. Okay. And they did a lot of research and they started to find out that, the boys themselves didn't have more testosterone. When you look at kids with autism, they didn't have more testosterone than non-autistic kids, but they saw that their mothers did. So that the mothers of the children with autism had more testosterone than the mothers of children without autism. Okay, does that make sense? So they started to think, okay, maybe this testosterone issue is a problem, but that really didn't get anywhere. It was just kind of, hey, that's a neat thought, and there it is. That kind of explains things. It's a boy problem, and we'll just lump it in there. Boys have problems, and it's a testosterone. There you go. It really didn't get into any kind of treatment therapies, which is interesting because we have different treatment things, different treatment protocols that can lower testosterone levels, but we never really got into that scientifically for autism. And recently, where science then went, which I'm glad they did, was to look at the other sex hormones, to look at the estrogen and the progesterone, because they started to see and they started to do research that estrogen is really, really important for the brain, super important for the brain. Okay, estrogen helps with brain development. Estrogen acts as an anti-inflammatory in the brain. Estrogen does a lot of good guidance in there, all right? And they started doing research with estrogen levels and psychiatric disorders, whether that be schizophrenia, whether that be bipolar, whether that be ADHD, whether that be autism. And they started to see that lower estrogen levels were correlated with these psychiatric medical conditions, okay? So again, lower estrogen, more anxiety, more depression, more kind of emotional changes that were not good. So they started doing this research with autism and noticed, hey, wait a minute. We were just looking at testosterone because we were just making the dumb assumption, boys, testosterone, kind of a really one-to-one scientific view, not opening up and looking at everything and starting to look at the estrogen and the progesterone. And so when they started doing that, and this was just about 5 years ago, they started to see that these everybody, not just the boys and the girls have lower estrogen and progesterone levels. All right. So it's not the high testosterone like we once thought or once assumed, but it's actually lower estrogen and progesterone levels. And that is one of the factors for why autism develops. Okay. So this is really intriguing. Now we've got to take that information and say, well, what do we do with it? All right. Now the other kind of cog in the wheel or nut in the factory, forget the term, but the other thing that's making a problem is our environmental toxins, okay? Many environmental toxins are called endocrine disruptors. Now, endocrine disruptors are different chemicals out in the world that affect our sex hormones. They affect primarily our estrogen. They can also affect our progesterone, testosterone, but these chemicals out in the world, endocrine disruptors, affect estrogen and how estrogen can work in the body. And I think that's one of these environmental issues for why is autism starting to explode over the past 40, 50 years is because there's so many more of these pollutants in our environment. Okay, there's so many more of these endocrine disruptors. There's so many more of these pharmaceuticals that we talk about all the time, like acetaminophen and Tylenol and paracetamol, that are big problems. Obviously, there's a lot more injections that our kids get. And so, like, everything just kind of got into our society around the same time. And so it's hard to peel through these and say, hey, what's the one thing? What's the one thing here and there? But that's really what autism is when we look at a treatment protocol. It's about multifactorial. So that's what we're going to focus on today is how can we identify low estrogen in our kids with autism, okay? If that's a big risk factor, how can we identify that? How can you identify that in your child with autism? What do we then do with that? Okay, because I'm not going to take a boy and say, hey, you have low estrogen, here's birth control pills. We're not going to do that, right? So what do we then do to modulate normal estrogen levels in both a boy and a girl, whether pre-puberty, whether post-puberty, okay? And then the third thing is, what about these environmental pollutants? What about these endocrine disruptors that are another problem causing some of these issues as well? You may have normal estrogen levels as a boy or as a girl, but if you have these endocrine disrupting chemicals in your life, then those hormones aren't going to work. The brain development isn't going to happen, okay? So we've got those three issues there. You know, how do we identify low estrogen or an estrogen deficiency in any child, boy or girl, okay? Well, how do we normalize those levels? And how can we get rid of the environmental toxin that's interfering? So that's kind of the three things that we're looking at. Now, obviously we want to go to our scientific research, so cheaters on, and we'll walk through all of this. All right, first research study, sex differential processes in autism. Autism clearly demonstrates a male bias, occurring 4 times more frequently in males than females. Autism genetic studies have suggested there may be a female protective effect. We discuss recent investigations of autism risk genes that have suggested a potential role for estrogens as modulators of biological pathways in autism. Okay, so again, I'm starting with some basics, but as it says, boys 4 times more than girls have autism. We're seeing that there's a female protective effect, okay? So it's not that boys are more susceptible, it's that females are more protected from these kind of developmental issues. Why? Because girls have more estrogen than boys, okay? Then it talks about investigating the role for estrogens as different modulators for autism. So how can we then use estrogen or other treatments that are similar to estrogen to help our kids? All right. Now, I do want to take a step aside from this and make sure we talk about genetics, because genetics are a huge role in many of our kids with autism, especially because this is the contribution of mutations of autism, genetic mutations of autism. Genetic mutations contribute to about 30% of all simplex autism cases and 45% of female diagnoses. Let me say that again, okay? Kids, one of the reasons, and autism is multifactorial, one of the reasons that kids have autism is they're born with a certain gene that's not working, a genetic mutation, okay? This research study, authors from Yale, talk about how 30% of kids with autism have a genetic cause, but 45% of the girls have a genetic cause, and that's a huge percentage, okay? So I think that's important, because when we look at autism and why do we get autism, am I born with it because of something genetic? Or did it happen afterwards? All right. And if it happened after birth and it's not something genetic, well, then that's when we look at those different toxins. So if I'm born with genetics that are functioning, then if I'm a girl, I have that female protective effect because I have the estrogen. So my likelihood of getting autism after I was born is less than if I'm a boy, okay? But being born with autism, born with a genetic mutation that causes autism, then I'm much more likely to be female. Does that make sense? Because you're either born with a genetic mutation you're going to get diagnosed with autism, and much more likely with a girl, but if you don't have those genetic mutations, then it's higher likelihood to be a boy. I hope that makes sense. I hope I'm explaining it well. Sorry, I'm getting text messages that one of my daughter's friends just ruptured her appendix. So, hey, that's recording a podcast on your phone. That's what happens. Okay, now, if you do have a child born with a genetic mutation for autism, don't fret, because as researchers from Harvard say in this genetic testing in autism, what's important is that first, there's no difference in cognition, language, or motor scores among children with normal genetics or abnormal or pathogenic genetics. Medical recommendations in response to genetic testing were made for 72% of those with abnormal results. That's huge. If you have a gene, these are authors from Harvard. If you have a genetic mutation that causes autism, okay, 72% of those, based on that study, could have a treatment. And a lot of people think, hey, if I have a genetic mutation or a genetic issue, then I can't do anything about it. Well, you can't change it, can't change your DNA, but we can give a treatment to help you feel better and help you be better, okay? So that's really cool stuff, and that's really hard to get from a geneticist, okay? You need an outside-the-box thinker. All right, back to the hormones. This research studied fetal estrogen and autism. I just want to take a brief pause for our viewers here in the United States. This is the British spelling of estrogen. So the British throw an O there in estrogen, and they throw an O there in fetal, and they throw a U in color. And we just spell things a little bit different. Okay, fetal estrogens and autism. Estradiol and progesterone had the largest effect on autism likelihood. These results for the first time showed that prenatal estrogens contribute to autism likelihood, and this likely affects sexual differentiation, brain development, and function. Okay, and again, this is only 4 years old. This study came out in 2020, saying it's the first research study that showed that this estrogen and progesterone deficiency is what's the factor for autism, not a testosterone excess. All right. So then they start thinking, well, what can we do about it? All right. And here's a treatment study that says estrogen signaling is a therapeutic target in neurodevelopmental disorders. A number of studies suggest a protective role of estrogen in neurodevelopmental disorders, including autism and schizophrenia. Alterations in the level of estrogen receptors have been found in subjects with autism, and adjunctive estrogen therapy has been shown to be effective in enhancing the treatment of schizophrenia. The role of estrogen in the pathology of neurodevelopmental disorders with a focus on autism, we discussed the potential of estrogen as a therapeutic target, okay? So again, what does this say? Now, first off, this research study looks at those with autism and others with schizophrenia. It's not saying they're one and the same, okay? Autism is not schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is not autism. They're totally different, but they do have similarities of what's happening in the brain, all right? So what they've seen is that estrogen therapy helps those with schizophrenia, okay? Will it help those with autism? We don't know. The science hasn't been done yet, or I haven't seen the research. I'd love to if they have, okay? So again, they're saying if we can stimulate estrogen activity in the brain, we can improve autism, okay? And again, I'm not saying increase estrogen. I'm saying increase estrogen activity, because this is where we're going to get into treatments that are not birth control pills. And we're going to get into treatments that are detoxing endocrine disruptors. So we have more estrogen activity in the brain, all right? Here's another research study. It talks about decreased level of estrogen receptors in children with autism. Estrogen and its receptors play a critical role in the pathogenesis of psychiatric disorders, including autism. The aim of this study was to investigate the relationship between autism and estrogen receptors. The severity of autism was evaluated by using the CAR scale, and the serum estrogen receptor level was lower in autism patients than controls. There was a negative significant correlation between the estrogen receptor level and the autism CARS score. All right, what does that mean? It's a little convoluted, okay? What that shows is this research study, now let me side note. You can test your estrogen levels. We're gonna get into lab work. Hey, how can I check my estrogen level in my kid? Am I deficient? Okay, that's important. But what happens is estrogen and everything in the body needs to work on different cells, and they work like a key in a keyhole, okay? So the key in this metaphor is estrogen. The keyhole in this metaphor is called a receptor, okay? So estrogen goes into the receptor, the key goes into the keyhole, and something good happens. So they tested those receptor levels in kids with autism. The receptor levels in those kids with autism is lower than neurotypical kids, and the more severe the autism, the lower the receptor levels, okay? So basically, as I was talking about before, this has to do with estrogen activity. So the lower estrogen activity is in kids with autism versus neurotypical, and the lower estrogen activity is in the more severe cases of autism, okay? So it's about estrogen activity, not just estrogen levels. All right, let's get into a few more research studies, 3 more. This one is going to be talking about those endocrine disruptor chemicals. And a big common one is BPA. Effect of bisphenol A on the neurological system. Bisphenol A, BPA, is an endocrine disrupting chemical found in plastics, frequently used in food storage and baby bottles. Now, however, BPA can bind mainly to estrogen receptors, transferring various neurological functions. BPA impairs various structural and molecular brain changes, promoting oxidative stress, changing expression levels of crucial genes, destructive effects on neurotransmitters, excitotoxicity and neuroinflammation, damaging blood-brain barrier function, and neuronal damage. Also, microglial DNA damage and significantly reduced myelination. However, BPA exposure increases the risk of developing neurological diseases, including neurovascular, like stroke, and neurodegenerative, like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Furthermore, studies showed that the adverse effects of BPA on neurodevelopment in children contributed to the emergence of serious neurological diseases like ADHD, autism, depression, emotional problems, anxiety, and cognitive disorders. That was a mouthful. Okay, what does it mean? BPA bad, all right? Now, BPA is being removed from products, but guess what? It's in the environment. Just because you don't make new products with BPA doesn't mean it's still not out there. It's still in the water systems. It's still in the air. Pollutants just don't disappear once you stop manufacturing them, okay? And in addition, there's a multitude of other endocrine disrupting chemicals in addition to BPA, and the other bisphenols that are replacing BPA are still endocrine disrupting chemicals anyway, okay? So the problem is there. The problem is everywhere. Can we avoid it? We can do our best, okay? We can do our best by eliminating plastics from our life, at least when they come in contact with food, especially the soft plastics. I mean, have you ever had a bottle of water, a plastic bottle of water, left it in your car on a hot day and drank it? It tastes slimy. Why? Because the plastics have melted into the water and you're drinking it and it's toxic, period. It's toxic, okay? So here in our house, you know, we try to remove all plastic, so we're switching to all glass. We never microwave in plastic. We try to use, if we do use plastic, it's hard plastic. It's impossible to avoid it altogether, but we do our best. But I think the other part is detoxing and removing these endocrine disrupting chemicals from our body. Okay, next, here's another one. Adverse impacts of endocrine disrupting mixtures. We found up to 54% of children had prenatal exposures of endocrine disrupting chemicals above levels of concern. And these endocrine disrupting chemicals had a 3.3 times higher risk of language delay. That's huge. Kids who had high toxic levels of endocrine disrupting chemicals had over 3 times the likelihood of having speech delay. That's big, guys. That's huge. All right? This is why we've got to detox these out of our system. I'll get to how in a minute. All right. A couple more things and then we'll get to our live questions. All right. I found this study really interesting, so I printed out the whole thing. If you want to, you can Google this. This is the role of estrogen receptors and their signaling across psychiatric disorders. Estrogens, via their signaling mechanisms and interactions with multiple neurotransmitter systems in our brain, including dopamine, serotonin, and glutamate, have heavy involvement in cognition and mood. There's going to be a lot that I'm going to read, and then we'll be done. All right. Here we go. They modulate executive functions such as working memory and reward processing. Estrogen's neuroprotective effect on the brain by promoting neutrophins synthesis and protecting the brain from inflammation and stress. Accumulating evidence suggests that estrogen and estrogen signaling may be highly implicated in the pathophysiology of psychiatric disorders. The role of estrogen receptor signaling and its therapeutic effects in psychiatric disorders, including schizophrenia, bipolar, depressive disorder, autism, ADHD, anxiety disorder, PTSD, eating disorders, and substance abuse disorders, all right? Estrogen's really important for the brain to work. That's the message. I think you're getting that, okay? Look at all these psychiatric issues that are associated with estrogen deficiencies. Okay, let's continue. Estrogens have cognitive effects, neuroprotective effects, anti-inflammatory roles. Estrogens are produced primarily in the ovaries in females, but can also be produced, most importantly, in the brain. Estrogen is produced in the brain. Okay, a few more things. Hold on. I know you're doing well. This is a science-y podcast today. Estrogens exert effects on neurotransmitter systems by targeting and regulating our cognition, mood, and behavioral responses, such as learning, memory, and cognitive flexibility. Here we go. Estrogens provide neuroprotection by having anti-inflammatory effects. Okay, and Sandra just typed a question. Hey, Sandra, is there a correlation between estrogen and pans and pandas? Sure is when there's anti-inflammatory effects of estrogen. Okay, now I don't have a research study that says pans and pandas, but brain inflammation is pans and pandas. Okay, all right, almost there. This is specifically about autism. The literature also describes estrogen signaling disruptions in autism. Aromatase, which converts testosterone to estradiol, as well as estrogen and estrogen receptors are reported to be decreased in autism. Let's read about ADHD. BPA is a xenoestrogen compound that binds to estrogen receptors. Evidence supports associations between BPA and ADHD-like symptoms occurring via disrupting multiple neurotransmitter systems of catecholaminergic, dopaminergic, and serotonergic signaling systems. Again, what a mouthful, but what does this all mean? It means that when we have low estrogen, we have emotional and mental issues. Period. Okay? Estrogen good. That's the tagline here. Estrogen is good. All right, so I think you got the point, okay? That estrogen is very important for brain development. It's very important for our mood and emotions. What do we do with that information? Again, there's three things. Number one, how do we test our estrogen levels? Number two, how do we get more estrogen activity in the body? And number three, how can we get rid of these estrogen disrupting chemicals, or endocrine disrupting chemicals out of our brain so that the estrogen works better? All right? Number one, let's talk about testing, okay? Testing hormones is pretty straightforward. It's a simple blood test, okay? You can ask your doctor, say, I want to test my kid's estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone levels, period, okay? You get a blood test, it's done. Now, I know blood tests are easier said than done with our kids. You can get, hormones tested through the saliva. So, if you want a saliva test of hormones, you can go on our website, spectrumawakening.com. We have a hormone test. Here's what you're going to get. This is a sample report, all right? This report is going to show your estrogens. There's three major estrogens: estrone, estradiol, and estriol. Estradiol, which I highlighted as the most important one, it's going to test your progesterone levels. It's going to test your testosterone levels, okay? So those are the major sex hormones that you want to know, right? Trust me, out of the kids that I've tested their sex hormones, okay, 90% have had estrogen deficiency, okay? Period. 90% of the sex hormones in the kids with autism I've personally tested in my clinic have estrogen deficiency, all right? Dolly's got a good question I'll get to later, all right? So next, that's how you test. You go get a blood test through your doctor. You do the salivary test through our website. Got it, okay? Or if there's another way you can test hormones, go for it. Number two, how do we increase estrogen levels, all right? And again, I'm not going to take a young 5-year-old and give them birth control pills. So how do we do that naturally? Well, we can increase estrogen activity, not estrogen levels, with certain foods. The easiest foods that increase estrogen activity are going to be pumpkin seeds and flax seeds. So if you have flax seeds or pumpkin seeds, or your child will eat those just every day, okay? Another thing you can do is organic soy, okay? Whether you do organic tofu or you do edamame, that's another way you can get more estrogen activity in the body. Now, let me say this about soy. Some people like soy, some people don't like soy. Do with it as you will, okay? Some people tolerate soy very well, especially those who are blood type A's. Some people can't digest soy and it gives them a bellyache and they get inflamed on it. There's no food that's perfect for everybody. And I know a lot of you may be on a soy-free diet, and that's great, okay? But some people tolerate soy very well and some people don't. So if you believe your child can tolerate soy, I think it's a great way to improve estrogen activity. All right. Third and last thing, how do I get rid of these endocrine disrupting chemicals? Okay. We've got a supplement that'll help you detox and remove those, and it's called SD Down. Okay. It's called SD Down because it is also going to affect estrogen metabolism, which is a great thing to do. Okay. These are capsules, and it's a combination of, can you read that? No, who can? It's a combination of a supplement called DIM, diindol methane, flax, as I mentioned, flax seeds, broccoli, which, we know broccoli is good for kids on the spectrum, green tea, and milk thistle, along with a little bit of vitamin E, okay? So I take this stuff myself because I want to make sure I detox these things. And frankly, I feel an emotional change and an emotional improvement when I take those, okay? Because again, I've tested my estrogen levels are fine, right? But I've still got these endocrine disrupting chemicals because they're everywhere, okay? And they're going to affect how those hormones affect your brain on a day-to-day basis. So honestly, I feel most everyone should be taking something like this to help remove those endocrine disrupting chemicals. So whatever estrogens and whatever hormones you have in your body are going to be functioning well. All right. That's kind of our sciencey part of the day. Let me give you the coupon of the week, and then we'll get to our live questions. So coupon for the weekend is Autism 20. Autism 20 is going to get you 20% off everything on SpectrumAwakening.com, not just the SD down, not just the hormone saliva test, but everything, including our bundles. That expires September 1st, 2024. If you want one-on-one help, you can set up a video appointment. I have a telemedicine clinic. Go on our website, SpectrumAwakening.com, click the appointment button up near the top right, and you can just book it online. It also has the phone number for our office, the email for our office, and you can reach out to us. Okay, great. Let's get to our live Q&A. Okay. Oh, and I just saw a vitamin D question. That's a really important one. Live shout out to Colleen and Sherry, and of course, Sandy, Jasmine, Janice, Magda's on. Hey, Magda from Massachusetts. Hope you're doing well. Manda, hello. Sandra, I just sent you a copy of my son's report with the P10 gene mutations. I hope that was the correct place. Yes, Sandra. And again, I just got back from a week break, so I'll be getting to my emails over the weekend. But thank you for doing that. Jesse, hey, Doc, could I get your insight on my P-tox? My daughter's making many gains on chelation, but the P accidents are still occasionally happening. She's on a liver and adrenal supplements and a lot of minerals. Do we ride it out? I have red mercury as a diuretic, so I'm wondering if what's causing it. Well, the first thing, Jesse, if your child, is urinating a lot, or pees the bed, or goes to the bathroom in their bed at night, two things to look at. Number one, check their sugar. Okay, check the sugar of their urine because that makes you pee a lot. So you may have a child with diabetes and not know it. In fact, I just got an email from one of our labs. So, we have two major labs that do our testing. And one of them just emailed me and said, hey, we check for sugar levels in all our kids' tests, or all tests, and your kid was really, really high. You got to reach out to him. So, that child may have diabetes and not know it, right? Or it's not being controlled. So, frequent urination is a common symptom of sugar issues. So go to your doctor, check that, okay? Number two, and very common in our community, is constipation, okay? Constipation can cause frequent urination. So try our brown log train if you haven't tried it yet, and that'll help move all the stool to get complete voids. You might be pooping a little bit, but not the whole thing. So try that. Natalie, hey Doc, I think I finally have Elijah's mix perfect now. So he's doing great in school, behaving appropriately, and actually doing his work. Thank you so much for all you do. Natalie, you're welcome. This is why I do what I do. I love it. I love helping kids. And this is the hope that we need to spread to others. So please make sure if you find this information helpful, share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with the other kids in therapy, wherever, share it around the world. We need other families to know that there's hope because Natalie's got Elijah on a great balance of what he needs. He's behaving and he's doing his work and doing great in school. Natalie, thank you for sharing. I love that. Jesse, any harm in giving an amino acid complex? As long as there's no other medical issues, no. Should we test aminos first or is it okay to give a full complex? It's fine to give a full complex. That's fine. If you are going to test them, a fasting blood test is the best. There are urine tests for amino acids, but the fasting blood is gold standard. Dolly, can you give Mitomax tension on the double, common cool, and anger management together? Yes. Jesse, he still looks good even with a bad eye. Thank you, Jesse. I appreciate that. Flattery will get you everywhere. Jesse, I have two girls, both affected, so what hormone should I be testing? Estrogen and testosterone. You can also test progesterone, that's okay, but estrogen and testosterone are the number ones. And while you're doing that, I would test thyroid. Serge, hey Doc, kind of off topic. My son's 9, he was potty trained most of his life and went on the toilet by himself pretty regularly. Recently he's regressed and won't go on the toilet even when we take him. Minutes later he'll go in his diaper. He's not bothered by it. We're not sure. Serge, I'm always worried about regressions. I'm worried about that as well. I'm kind of concerned that he may have a PANS or PANDAS flare. What I want you to do is try some ibuprofen for a few days, whatever dose is appropriate for his age, for his weight. Try that for a few days and see if it helps, because there's something not right there. And again, go back to the constipation, such a common cause of that. Try the brown log train if you haven't yet, but I'd be worried about pans pandas flare. Annie, we're treating gut infections with grapefruit seed extract, colloidal silver, biocidin, and the gut binder. Can you take them all at the same time? Yes. Medina, hey doc, my heavy metal hair test has been ready since last week. Could I please double check, send me the results? Yes, no problem. Again, I was out last week, but I will get there. Woodchick is, in my family, my brother has 3 boys with autism. Okay, stop right there. You need genetic testing. That's just a red flag. There's something in the DNA. I have a son with autism. My cousin has a boy with autism. My brother and daughter of my brother are okay. What do you think about this case? Genetic testing, okay? You want 3 genetic tests: Fragile X, chromosomal microarray, and a whole exome sequence, okay? You can get the Fragile X from your doc, but get the microarray and whole exome sequence either from your doc or through our website, okay? Red flag for genetics. And again, just like that research study showed at the beginning, 1/3 of all kids with autism are from a genetic cause, and 72% of those genetic causes can have a treatment. Mandy, this is making sense. Took me a minute, but you're explaining this well. All right, I've done my job, Mandy. Sandra, is there a correlation between estrogen and pans pandas? As I just said, probably. I don't have a specific science research on that, but if estrogen is an anti-inflammatory and pandas is an autoimmune inflammatory, makes sense. Lisa said, just did this whole panel. Good. Dolly, so postmenopausal women should do estrogen? That is a conversation between you and your doctor. However, I think you will feel better if you have estrogen support postmenopausal. Now, that could be estrogen replacement therapy and actually taking hormones, or that can be kind of the natural support we talked about. Back in school, when I, obviously now I just work with kids with autism. Back in school, when I worked with everybody and was learning everything, we would give the flax and pumpkin seeds and certain herbs like dong quai, which were great postmenopausal. So I would look into that. I think you'll feel good. Yolene, Yolene's always on. Hey, Yolene. Good afternoon. I purchased Tempertainment last week for my daughter. What's the best way to take it? 2 capsules in the morning and maybe 1 capsule at lunch or after school. Okay. If that afternoon capsule causes sleep problems, stop the afternoon and just do 2 in the morning. Lisa, we were dealing with pans and pandas and now hormonal issues. It's a doozy, isn't it? Look into the whole estrogen thing. See how it works for you, Lisa. Brianna, hey doc, missed you last week. Excuse me. What are your thoughts on plasminogens? I have no thoughts. I haven't done them. I don't have any patients who have done them. So I don't know. She also asked, do you see much benefit supplementing with choline? A little bit. And that's why I put it in our folinic acid formula. I put it in our Power and Focus formula. I'm putting it in our new multivitamin. I would say some benefit. I don't think it's huge, but some. Brianna, last question. Vitamin E, is it safe to supplement? Yes. If so, what's a good starting dose for a 70-pound child? I would say about 200 or 400 IUs. Carla, what would be the taste of the Etsy down? That's a great question. We try to make our stuff taste decent. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So here's the SD down capsule. There we go. Okay. It's a light brown powder. And when I taste it, I don't have anything to chase this. Oh, I don't know what's going to happen. All right. So there it is right there. Okay. Ooh. That's a little bitter and a little grainy. It's like bitter sand. It's not horrible, but you definitely notice it. I would say a slightly bitter sand. Yeah, there you go. Luckily, I did not need a chaser. You've seen me, try stuff and, exorcist vomit. But no, that's, I bet you could hide that. T says, hi doc, how do we deal with an autistic 5-year-old getting inappropriate arousal? Yes, we talked about this before. He gets visibly aroused in his groin when somebody gives him a hug. Yeah, I would really look into testosterone levels because obviously for a 5-year-old that's inappropriate and medically inappropriate. That shouldn't be happening. So I would look into our Common Cool supplement. Our Common Cool supplement can help drop testosterone levels. It's great for PCOS. Anybody has PCOS, but get his testosterone levels checked and try our Common Cool supplement. Sherry, liquid sunshine dosage on the bottle is confusing. It says 1 drop. Is that 1 drop or 1 dropper full? I'm glad you asked, Sherry. It's 1 tiny drop. 1 tiny drop. Lena, would the Etsy down help with hypersexual behaviors in a teenage boy? I would think more our Common Cool to lower testosterone levels, but I would try it anyway. It might help. Molly, can any of your products help clear a kiddo out without having to use high-dose laxatives? Yes, our brown log train. Get on that, Molly. Brown log train's the way to go. Tasha, hey, my son's 3.5 years old, currently started puking when he was 12 to 18 months old, or hours old. Started becoming more and more. Projectile vomiting, every feeding, sleeping upright. Pediatrician said it was normal. Let me just stop there. I hate when your child is sick and the doctor says that's normal, okay? It just means they don't care or they don't have a drug to help you. And either way, it's bad. I got the answer. He outgrew it. He continues to have loose diarrhea stools. I don't know if he's ever had a form stool in his life. He's very smart. He can't get his words out to talk, but is trying his best. Does this sound like a genetic or GI issue? This is a GI issue. This is a mitochondrial issue. Very common. I would do this. I would try our Mitomax supplement. It's our mitochondrial cocktail. If that doesn't work, go to a gastroenterologist and get scoped, okay? I would definitely do that. I have an appointment at the end of September. If there's any cancellations, how can I get on the list? Just email our office. So go to our website, spectrumawakening.com, click appointments. In there is the email for our office, which is different than the email for our vitamin shippers. Email them and ask if you can get bumped up. And it's ironic. I just had a cancellation today. I had appointments this morning. We had a cancellation. So they happen. All right. Gada, thanks. Jesus bless you. All the parents and children with autism. I'm in Africa. No doctor can help us. Thanks for your help in countries in Africa. Gada, you're welcome. And again, we distribute with a company in South Africa. You just Google South Africa and Spectrum Awakening, it'll pop up. I forget the name of them right now. But if you're in a different country in Africa, other than South Africa, we would love to set up distributors. We'd love to get everywhere because we want to help every kid out there and spread the word. We have free ebooks and obviously the podcast, and there's so much we can do to help. We just want to help everybody around the world. Molly says, sounds like we need brown log train. It's good stuff. Bella's always on from Carlsbad. I wanted to ask, my 14-year-old daughter is taking the SD Balance. Does she need the SD Down and the cream? The progesterone cream. She's starting to refuse to drink all her mixed supplements. What supplements are best for morning to go to school? Well, first off, you can do the SD Down and the SD Balance. The progesterone cream, it just depends. You should be testing for the progesterone before you do that. What supplements are best for the morning? Really the brain supplements, except for the serotonin, like Power and Focus and Calm and Cool and Anger Management, Temper Tamer, those kind of things. Selma, I love your passion and dedication to our kids. Thank you. Well, thank you, Selma. I love what I do. That's why I do it. I love parents who care. I love parents who try. So please, kudos for you guys for doing what you can do for your kids and staying strong, because it drains you every day. I know. I know how hard it is. So the fact that you're fighting and doing everything you can for your child, you are doing way more than I am. So keep it up, spread the word. We'll do this together. Mona, meltdowns. All right. If your child is having meltdowns, they're in pain. Period. Okay? Stop. Done. All right. They're in pain. Most of the time, it's a gut infection is causing the pain, unless they're teething. So, and when they're head banging, it might be teething, but it might be an ear infection. So look for an ear infection, look for the teething, but treat the gut infection. Try our yeast mold bundle. That usually helps most of the time. Mona, what supplements can I give my 5-year-old for those meltdowns? Head bangings. Wait, was that the same? It was Mona. Again, check for an ear infection with your doc. See if there's go to the dentist and see if there's a tooth issue or an infection. Look for that pain, especially with the head banging, okay? There's so few kids that head bang nowadays. So if you've got a head banger, they're trying to fix the pain. And is the pain in their ears because of an ear infection, or do they have some kind of tooth infection? You may need to go to your doctor, look in the ears. You may need to go to the dentist and get an x-ray, find the pain. Now, meltdowns in general are usually a gut infection, but the head banging isn't. So with the head banging, ear infection, tooth infection. Natalie, I work for a pediatric gastroenterologist. A lot of our kids are on the spectrum. I tell anyone who will listen about you and your products. Well, thank you, Natalie. And if your gastroenterologist is ever interested in learning stuff or talking, I'd love to, because I want more gastroenterologists to know that these kids have a weakened gut immune system and are more predisposed to gut infections. And if you can treat the gut infections, even pharmaceutically, you're going to be able to help the day-to-day quality of life of these kids. If I could get flyers and spread them out in the schools, I would. Well, you can download our free ebooks, spread those around. Lisa, we're struggling with Pans and Pandas at many of the things you were discussing. Yeah, I think we need to do a Pans Pandas podcast again. I'm also going to get a guest talking about Down syndrome in a few weeks. I would say one of the experts in the biomedical world on autism and Down syndrome. Sandra, my doc tested my daughter's hormone levels and said they're within normal limits. Would using the Etsy down and cleaning the toxic stuff out help her behavior? It should. I would try it. Lisa, what about elevated ACTH levels in females? We just got referred to an endocrinologist, as well as LH and FSH abnormal levels. Lisa, so these are brain hormones that she's talking about. Yeah, if you have abnormal ACTH, LH, and FSH, go to an endocrinologist and push for an MRI. Janice, had our granddaughter's genetics tested in June. Would you have results back yet? You know what? Email June, July. It's normally 3 months, so we're kind of right there on the border, Janice. Email our customer service and they can check for you through the portal. It's right on the borderline. Gata, what is mold? Is it fungus or parasite? It's a fungus. So mold is a fungus. I would use our yeast mold bundle to try that. Lisa, estrogen normal range. Good. But again, what about the endocrine disrupting chemicals? Carla, thank you so much for trying it. Oh, the supplement. Yeah, anytime. You got to know how this stuff tastes. Man, how often do you take Calm and Cool? I would say 3 times a day, maybe max 4. Angela, hey, my nearly 6-year-old is obsessed with looking at himself and anything with a reflection, car, letterbox, toilet roll. What do you think is causing this? How do I lose it? Ooh, that's a tough one, Angela. Boy, how do I take care of one of the 7 deadly sins? No, I'm joking. I don't know. Have you tried our super serotonin supplement? But I don't know. That's a good question, Angela. Nobody's ever asked me that. David, hello. Would like to set up an appointment. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Go to our website, spectrumawakening.com, click appointments. You can call our office, you can email our office, or you can book right there on the website with our Calendly app. I have an unvaccinated child. Son has autism. Should we do the DNA test first or appointment with you first? That's up to you, but do both. But you need genetic testing. For any of you that have a child that is not vaccinated and has autism, you need genetic testing, period. Okay, period. And look, your child's vaccinated or not vaccinated, I don't care. I don't care at all my only care is helping your child as much as I can, no matter what, period, no matter what. Tasha, thank you so much. You're welcome. Spread the word. I'll talk, you tell others. Becky, my autism daughter is very high in iron and low ferritin. Her PCP told us don't give her anything with iron and it's okay, but I'm constantly worrying about it. What do I have to do? Go to a hematologist. Don't let your PCP dismiss you. Go see the expert. Selma, I had my one-on-one appointment this morning. I highly recommend. Thank you, Selma. I forgot to ask, how do you feel about CBD? Do it. And broccoli. You can do it, but I've never seen it do a lot. There's a company that always promotes their product for autistic. It's a gummy. Yeah, well, hey, I promote Spectrum Awakening, so I get that. Look, you never know what's going to work until you try it. But personally, I've just never seen huge improvements with broccoli and sulforaphane supplements. We have one on our website. I just don't think it's huge. But you never know till you try. CBD, yeah, try it. Molly, if I were to clear out old backed up stool, do we need to double the dose of brown log train or stick to it once a day? Start with once a day and adjust as needed. Wojcik, can you help to order the WEA test in for my son? I'm in Europe. Yes, Wojcik, what I need you to do is email our customer service and say, hey, I'm in Europe, but Dr. Skowron said you could get this test for me. So just email us because we have to add shipping charges because you're in Europe. which is weird because the company is in Germany, but it is what it is. Amanda, thoughts on Pepcid for my 9-year-old? I would rather you try Adios Acid. Adios Acid is our natural supplement to help with acid reflux. Lola, hey doc, what supplement will you recommend if the test shows it's genetic? Great question. There is no one supplement because we have 20,000 different genes and there's over 3,000 genes already identified that are associated with risk for autism. And all those different genes do different things. So there's no one treatment for genetic. It's very individualized and specific. But I get that question a lot, Lola. Rodney, how you doing, man? Bella, thank you again. If we're using MTHFR chewables, do we need the cream? No. Also, gut calm, do we need the gut reset or the binder? Yeah, they're different. Gut calm is more anti-inflammatory. The binder binds the toxins and the gut reset is probiotic. So you could take all three. I feel sometimes I'm overwhelming my child with supplements. I just want to give her the best. Thank you and God bless. No, I get it, Bella. I understand. Use what works. Try what you need. I would say gut calm and gut binder are more important than the gut reset, but everybody's different. Lisa, exactly what we're doing in here, you confirm, makes it more relevant because you're always spot on. Well, thank you, Lisa. I hope that's a combination of intelligence and 20 years experience. Angela, LOL. Angela, could it be viral? Sure could. Lisa, beware. Lots of trial and error with CBD THC from our experience made my daughter more anxious. Yeah, it's always, everybody's different with everything. Sherry, have a hematology test for thalassemia. Good one, Sherry. Kudos for Sherry on that. So the person who was talking about the ferritin and the iron issues, go to a hematologist, have them screen for something called thalassemia. I'm sure the hematologist would know that, but good one, Sherry. Angela, have sulfur supplements caused my son to headbang and also high histamine if that helps? I need something for the sulfur issues for sure. I think that has to do with the gut infection. So if you give sulfur supplements, and you have problems, we might be looking at gut issues. All right, everybody. That's all the questions I see right now. If you have a question, type it in the comments section. But let's step back and summarize. More boys than girls with autism. Okay? We all know it. It's there. Okay? We used to assume it's from high testosterone. But in actuality, it's due to an estrogen deficiency or a poor estrogen activity. So what do we do about it? Number one, test. Okay, check your estrogen levels. All right, you can do that with a blood test through your doc. You can do that with a saliva test like we have through our website. Right, and if you've got low estrogen, then increase estrogen activity. Now we're not going to be giving birth control pills to our kids, but we can use things like flax seeds and pumpkin seeds and organic soy, like organic tofu and organic edamame, to help activate more estrogen activity. In addition, endocrine disrupting chemicals like BPA, bisphenol A, and a bunch of others out there in the world affect how estrogen helps our brain. Estrogen is necessary for our brain to development, okay? So what can you do? I think everybody should try this supplement ST Down because this is going to help remove endocrine disrupting chemicals. I take it myself. I feel emotionally better when I do. All right. And of course, our coupon of the weekend is Autism20. That's going to get you 20% off any of our vitamins or lab tests. That expires September 1st, 2024. And of course, I have a telemedicine clinic, so I talk to people all over the world. And I love it, okay? All right, a couple other questions came up. Amanda, can the adios acid be crushed? Yes. Does it dissolve? I wouldn't say well, but you can crush it up. Danny, do you know much about undermethylation? I do. Make sure you try our Belicious for MTHFR or our MTHFR cream or our folinic acid. Mona, how safe is Miralax? I don't like Miralax. I don't like it. Go back. We did a podcast on Miralax a few months ago. Miralax has a lot of side effects. And again, make sure you watch that podcast. Miralax has a lot of side effects. And 6% of people who take Miralax get psychiatric side effects and mood changes. And with our kids who can't express that, how do we know that they're feeling anxious or depressed or suicidal? We don't. That's why I worry about medications that have psychiatric side effects with our kids that can't express themselves. Because what if they're feeling horribly emotionally, right? Or they want to do something we'd never regret. Okay, we always regret. Sorry, never forgive ourselves. Is what I meant. So I don't like Miralax. What did people use before Miralax? They used magnesium. Magnesium's been used literally for hundreds of years for constipation. I like combining Miralax. No, I don't. I need some more sleep. I like combining magnesium with electrolytes. We have that in our supplement, Brown Log Train, so you can try that. Lisa, I want to try your supplements. We're currently taking NAC and inositol and turmeric. Please do, Lisa. Use the coupon, and don't forget, Spectrum Awakening offers a 30-day return policy. So if you try something, it doesn't work, your kid doesn't like it, you change your mind, whatever, send it back for a refund, because Spectrum Awakening would rather you try something and send it back than not try it at all, okay? We have 75 supplements formulated by myself, to help our kids. I mean, I made these supplements for my patients, period, okay? But now they're on the website and they're distributed all over the world, but we make them for our kids, okay? So try it, see what works. Something's gonna work. All right, and Sandra, my daughter self-injures all the time from pain and scratches herself all over. Yeah, we've gotta, let's try the estrogen, Sandra, try the SD down, see if that works. Try some organic soy and such, see what happens. All right, everybody, thank you again for another great podcast. Thanks for those of you listening live. For those of you, listening not live, you can always listen live. We record every Thursday, 12:15 p.m. on our Facebook page, Spectrum Awakening. We're also posting a lot of new reels now on our Instagram, so make sure you follow us on Instagram, Spectrum Awakening. And thank you for everything you do for your kids. We're here to help your kids get better, but you are the true champions. A couple other live questions here. Rodney, gotta love Brown Log Train, the name. I love our names, Rodney. I love it. Jeannie, my daughter's in bundle for gut. What signs it's working? They're getting better. That's a sign it's working. Okay, give it a month. Give it a month, see what happens. All right, everybody. Thank you for doing everything you can for your kids, and we'll see you next week.